Hello, Pastor Paul here, and going to give a little brief tutorial because, as many of you may know, the good news is we will be having in-person worship this Sunday, but things are going to be a little different, so I need to let you know in advance. Be patient because, we've had to make some adjustments, and no doubt there's going to be glitches, and hopefully over the next weeks things will loosen up as far as compliance goes, and we'll get better at the service. Actually, we're going to have two services, just so you know. We're going to have a 9:30 service, and we're going to have an 11 o'clock service. Now, you may have been contacted already by the church, for them to find out which service you'd go to, because there's also limitations on how many people can be in the building at one time. I think we're somewhere around 90 people-ish. And so right now we're going to have two. Hypothetically, we could go to three. Now, here's something that's very important. Some people aren't really comfortable yet with in-person worship due to various ways that they're reading the current COVID-19 climate, and if you want to continue to stay home, it will be live streamed. The 11 o'clock service will be live streamed, and we encourage you, if you have any reservations or misgivings, to stay home. Certainly if you have any at-risk stuff, if you're at a certain age, my age or older, if you have a fever or a cough or any of those things, but even if you feel like, for whatever your reasons are, that you're just not ready, that's fine. And I'm hoping that, because people are kind of divided on this, that everybody will be understanding of the other side, people on the other side of the issue. And our elder board, for example, is one of the most unified sessions that I've ever known of. And we're on other sides of the issues here. So let's try to be patient about that. All right, having said that, a couple of things. Know this, that the liturgy is going to be a little different. It's going to be a little shorter, and there are various reasons for that. But we will have all of the elements of worship. But normally we do 5 hymns. We're going to do 3, and I'm going to actually try to do the sermon a little shorter, which has always been my goal that I've never ever achieved. But that's going to be what I'm aiming for, and so forth. We will have communion, and you'll be instructed on that. But here's the way it's going to kind of work, in order to keep everything as sanitary as possible. Hopefully you get there a little early, and there'll be an usher who will direct you to certain places where we keep the social distancing going on in the sanctuary, but there will be pre-packaged elements for communion that a member of your household will get from a table. And when communion comes, you're going to pour the wine in the little cups and get the matzahs out, and so you're going to basically have that ready. So there will be communion along those lines. Now, a couple other things to go over here. Now, first of all, the mask issue. Obviously, the mask issue is a gigantic issue. Everybody's on flip sides of this for too many reasons I can enumerate right now. But let me just ask you to capitulate, to be patient, and to understand what I'm going to ask. And that is, for the early service, the 9:30 service, we would like everybody in that service to wear a mask. And just so you know, preaching, they've said we're going to clear the front out so that I can preach without a mask. If you notice that when the governor, or even people who are very aware of the potential contagious nature of the disease are being interviewed, they're never wearing a mask, because in a room full of reporters, because they clear that front area out. We're going to do that. So just be patient with me not wearing a mask, because the elders thought it would just be too difficult for me to be up there trying to preach wearing a mask. But in the first service, we're going to ask everybody who attends that service to wear a mask. So if you're the kind of person who is nervous about this, and justifiably so, that might be the service for you. At the 11 o'clock service, we're going to strongly recommend people wear masks, but pursuant to the code that we see in Appendix F here in the LA County Department of Health, there are exceptions to people. It's not according to the order here, that there are certain reasons, and this is on Appendix FC4, that impaired breathing or different at-risk things. We're going to leave that up to people's individual conscience if they want to wear a mask or not at the second service. And it might be good, if you're not wearing a mask, to sit more up front because of the whole droplet issue and stuff, rather than sitting in the back. But so the people who have strong convictions on both sides, we're trying, and there might be people who just, well, I don't care, I'll sit in a room with them or without them, and you could pick either service. But people who have kind of convictions on either side, we're trying to accommodate that, because we feel like all of that is within the boundaries of Scripture, and nobody's violating the regulative principle of worship by either wearing or not wearing a mask. So that's the deal on the masks. Social distancing, so everybody's going to be sitting with their families in separate rows that'll be all marked out. So when you come in, just kind of be aware of that the deacons have worked very hard to make sure all that is taken care of. Also, this is another thing. If you look at the compliance rules, what they're nervous about is actual physical contact. Because if you're like me, you like touching, you like the hugs and closeness and all that. So, handshakes and hugging and all that stuff. Now, look, and we're not going to walk around with a tape measure kind of going, are you 6 feet, and with a cattle prod going, oh, you're too close or what have you. And, but I don't know what level of comfort or discomfort other people might have. And I'll just tell you kind of the way I look at it. I mean, because I'm personally fairly comfortable with the people want to shake my hands or whatever. But I'm looking at others going, where are you at on this? And I'm not going to assume that you're as comfortable as I am. I got to get a read on that. So unless you have a clear read on that, and I don't think people are going to be wearing like badges saying, if you want a hug, I'm your guy or whatever. So we want you to kind of just maintain elbow room when it comes to physical contact and not assume that other people are where you are, either service. Once you leave the building, you're on your own. But we're just going to say, I feel like giving this, I'm a little bit pastor, I'm a little bit lawyer, and I'm a little bit director of cotillion. Okay, so I'm trying to go like, what are the social aspects of this? I'm going to ask you to just be really careful about kind of this desire that we all have to get real close and hold and hug and handshake. And, err on the side of being a little more distant, even though, we all want to be close. All right, if you understand, hopefully you understand what I'm saying. Let me go further down the list. It'd be good either service if you got there a little early, because I'm getting, especially in the first few weeks, we're trying to work this all out. We're not going to be passing objects back and forth, so you'll have your own communion elements that you'll grab from a table. And then we're not going to pass an offering. So there'll be a box when you arrive, and there'll be another box when you exit. And by the way, you'll exit from a different place that you enter. That's kind of our effort at being as compliant as reasonable. And so there will be an opportunity to give an offering. It just won't be bags being passed around. We're not going to pass anything around. And what else we got here? If you're high risk, feel free to stay home, no problem. We have elders who are going to stay home and live stream, and so feel perfectly comfortable with that. Here's another thing people might have a little bit of a hard time with, and that is the temperature thing. You're not going to be touched, but there's this little, forehead thing, and I've talked to, one of our resident physicians, and I'm like, is this more for optics or does this make a difference? And what he indicated to me was it's kind of, look at it as a net where the little fish are going to get through, but we'll stop the big fish. And so, I not that I think people don't have the ability to kind of self-diagnose, but the chances are it's possible that somebody, and not you, but somebody might not be as clued into the fact that they're not well. And, they might have foaming at the mouth and a temperature of 104 and blood coming out of their eyes, and they're like, well, I'm going to go to church. Well, so the temperature thing is more kind of finding the extreme rather than, the big fish who's going, I know I'm sick and I'm coughing my head off, but I'm going to church and so forth. And so we want to make sure, that doesn't happen. And so we're going to be doing that. Now, taking a look here, there's a lot of things on this list, and I have to tell you, the deacons have done so much work in terms of cleaning the church, and we've got hand sanitizers, and the bathrooms are being really looked out after, and so forth. And so all this to say, we're going to do the best we can to have a God-honoring in-person worship service within the boundaries of all this kind of stuff that's going on. And as time goes on, hopefully we'll get better at it, and boundaries will loosen, and God willing, in time, not only will we be back to where we were, we'll be further than where we were, because I do feel like this whole escapade has been quite refining and testing. And I don't know how many of you watched that video I sent out. I had the church sent out from Ligonier, and Dr. Godfrey, Bob Godfrey, had made this comment about, do you miss worship? Do you miss worship? And what he said was, does God miss worship? And okay, got cut off there a little bit. Godfrey had this idea that that maybe, just maybe, this is God's way of kind of going, you need to change the way you worship. Your worship revolves around you too much and not around me. And I really took that to heart, and that is our worship really there? Are we really there to worship God and edify one another? Are we there like for ourselves? And I know that's kind of made me think that way, evaluate that. I hope you do too. All that to say, praying this is a wonderful, wonderful church service this Sunday, May 31st. And God willing, we'll see you there. All right? God bless. Bye-bye.